My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Let's settle for the details. Attorney General Designate Godfred Dame has defended government's decision not to seek parliamentary approval to engage transaction advisors for the controversial Agyapa Deal. His comments come on the heels of investment and brokerage firm Databank serving notice to withdraw its services as a partner and transaction advisor in the deal. Databank and Imra Holding Limited were co-partners and transaction advisors for the Agyapa Gold Royalties Company.
If one were to apply the holding in this case to the transaction in question, I will submit finally that to the extent that Parliament had considered and approved the substantive agreement itself, the primary agreement being the mineral royalties agreement, other subsidiary agreements like an agreement for the appointment of a transaction advisor ought not to have come before the Honorable House for approval.
Honorable nominee, is it your case that...
Are you doing a follow-up on any
yes,
matter?
please.
Otherwise, I should go
just a follow-up on the point he made. Is it your case that the transaction itself did not have government as a party, and that it is by entities that are independently registered to operate with that capacity? Is that your case by way of your response to the question?
Gentlemen, that is not my point at all. The point I made was just simple. The transaction was between the government of Ghana and certain entities. Indeed, the transaction that is being impugned here is a mandate agreement executed between the Ministry of Finance on behalf of the government of Ghana, necessarily, and Imara Company, South Africa, as well as Databank of South Africa. And the question here was whether the presence of the Imara Limited, which is a South African company, made it and transferred within a common transaction for the purpose of Article 181 Clause 5. And my contention is that, as the Supreme Court has held in the Balkan case, it's only major agreements that ought to come before this Honorable House. A major agreement necessarily should be in reference to the primary agreement itself. The primary agreement has come before this Honorable House, and therefore such minor agreements which would facilitate the execution of the primary agreement ought not to have come before this Honorable House.
Taking his turn at the vetting of ministerial nominees, Mr. Dame said the transaction didn't qualify for international major business agreements that requires approval.
Now, Mr. Dame, would you still insist that a transaction which involves the payment of $4 million United States to a foreign entity would not qualify for a major business transaction?
Gentlemen, with all respect, in terms of the character of the agreement and in terms of the quantum of the sum, they do not qualify as international major agreements, major business or economic transaction. I will explain so because fundamentally, to the extent that it was not the main agreement regarding the transaction, it did not even qualify at all. Secondly, even if it did, on account of it being $4 million, I'm not trying to be, in fact, I did not have $1 million, but I'm just saying that in the scheme of things, it does not qualify for a major business agreement. Because, as was alluded to in the matter, the situation where the government of Ghana buys air tickets for its public officers will be material. It never comes before its Honorable House. Indeed, the government of Ghana buys air tickets all the time, I'm sure definitely every year to about $4 million or more. It never comes before this Honorable House. So I think that we ought not to look at the quantum as constituting a basis for subjectivity. Because the first fundamental requisite does not even come in. It's not a major agreement in the sense that it's not the main agreement. It's only a subsidiary agreement or an agreement which facilitates the execution of the main agreement.